Okay, welcome. I'm here with Jay Baer today, the author of Hug Your Haters. We are, we are, yeah, this is great. We are simulcasting right now. If you're on the radio listening, you probably don't see that he just held up his book upside down, and that's just the kind of guy my friend Jay was. We were going to put a photo to advertise this of Jay and I together. It was fantastic. Jay was wearing a kimono. Great shot of Jay. Yes, and I'm still figuring out how to crop it because I look like I'm totally asleep. Something went wrong with my camera that day. So, Jay, we're going to have to get together and try another picture.
All right, we'll do it. Whenever we're together, I'll be happy to try out another Komodo photo for.
Good. Yeah, just keep it closed. We have a lot of pictures of us together. I've seen you so many times and always love what you present. And today you're talking about a subject I kind of like. I like hugging haters because I like hugging everybody. Not much of a physical hugger, so this is my hugging way to do. I know we're using Blab to record this, so we've got plenty of chance to applaud and put some lay some hands on you.
Props.
And mad props. Saw you a little while ago talking about it, and want to get right into some of the ideas of where this hug your haters thing came from. Is it just the Christian line flipped to be said another way, to be hip and current, or why hug your haters?
No. Here's the story. So my consulting business, what we discovered in the process of working with a lot of companies on marketing and social media marketing and content marketing, et cetera, we were increasingly asked about customer service and what's the social media customer service play? How does social media customer service interact with traditional customer service, et cetera, et cetera. And what I discovered is that in general, companies are using a 1995 playbook to try and solve 2016 customer service problems. And I dug a little deeper and realized that customer service is actually being disrupted in the exact same ways that marketing has been disrupted, and for the same reasons. Mobile, social, technology like this, consumer behavior, millennial culture, all those things have now changed customer service the same way they changed marketing. And so there's like 500 books about marketing disruption. There's like no books about customer service disruption. So I thought, I should probably write a book about that. And so most business books, including most books written by me, are essentially collections of anecdote and advice. It doesn't become bad books. It's just that it's essentially, hey, I'm an expert, you're not. I think you should do this. Trust me, do these things that I tell you to do inside these pages. But the problem with a customer service book is that everybody thinks they're already good at customer service, and it's not as sexy as marketing. And so I thought, if I'm going to write a book about customer service, I better actually know what I'm talking about. So I conducted a massive, expensive research project with the guys at Edison Research, and we really did the science of complaint, looked at who complains, why, where, how, et cetera. And what we found, Warren, was that about a third of all customer complaints are ignored, never answered. And almost all of those are online, social media, review sites, discussion boards, and forums. And so we are strategically, purposefully, willingly ignoring customers in public, which is probably not a very good idea. And so I discovered that there's a huge opportunity for businesses to answer more customers in more places, that when you hug your haters, meaning in the parlance of the book, that you answer customer complaints everywhere, it actually has a massive impact on the success of your business.
So you're really going out looking for the haters rather than just loving everyone?
Absolutely. Well, the advice in the book is to answer every customer in every channel every time, positive or negative. Now, that is sometimes difficult to do. In fact, I don't even do it. Like, I don't answer every positive tweet. I should. I actually wrote a book that says that you should, but I don't. But I definitely answer, or as much as I possibly can, every negative tweet. So you should definitely start with the negative, handle all complaints, then go neutral, then go positive, if you sort of pick a sequence.
Right. I've done some of that. I've tried answering all the people that retweet me and mark favorite, and I found that with the change in the favorite button, that people actually respond to that I've clicked on the heart, and it's really easy to get into a habit of just clicking everything with the heart and hardly even reading them. And I can see, and some days I'm thinking like, why should I even bother doing this? And so what I'll do, myself, is I'll adjust, and I'm talking to, 100 plus people a day there. So some days I put in some more effort and try to do that. But it seems like we spend a disproportionate time trying to take care of the problems that are really standing out. And in the past, that's meant ignoring them with more gusto. I said on a panel, about a year ago that was supposed to be customer service, and I think we're going to be like this conversation, talking about great ideas to hug your haters or love everybody, because before you coined the hug your haters great phrasing, I used to say love everyone, which I think is pretty much the same, but I'm now a fan of hug your haters. So I thought, okay, great. We're going to say, how can we make sure that we're responsive, that we're everywhere, we talk to everybody. And somebody comes on, an expert in customer service, talking about how they handle, a large Midwestern newspaper, which that's as specific as I'll get, and what they do when somebody doesn't get their paper and how they change that. And do you have to answer everybody? And a lot of attention as to whether or not it's okay to delete a comment when it includes a death threat. And I thought, gosh, that kind of stuff's just common sense. There's sometimes when you want to stop, but can you get carried away? Can you spend too much time saying, somebody didn't get their paper? Thank you for your tweet. We'll see that we get you taken care of, and we love our customers.
Well, I don't know that it's too much time. I think it's important to acknowledge customers, right? Customer's not always right, but the customer should always be heard, especially online, for two reasons. One, the research in the book shows that answering a customer complaint can have up to a 25% impact on that customer's advocacy. So 25% more likely to advocate on behalf of the company if you just have one complaint answered. There's other research out there that shows that customers who have problem and that problem is successfully addressed become more loyal to the business than customers who never had a problem at all. It's like a weird Stockholm syndrome kind of psychosis. So there is certainly an opportunity to keep a customer, to turn an unhappy customer into a happy customer, et cetera. That's not going to happen if you ignore them, because as Dave Kirpin told me when I interviewed him for the book, he said, look, no response is a response. It's a response that says, we don't care about you. We're not interested in keeping you as a customer, right? So there's certainly something to be said for that. I think the other issue, though, is that increasingly customer service really is a spectator sport, that so much of what we see now plays out in public, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, discussion boards, Yelp, TripAdvisor, whatever. And that's a relatively new phenomenon, right? When you sort of think about that, for a long time, like generations, all business interaction with customers, positive or negative, was generally speaking in private. So whether it was face-to-face conversation or a letter or a fax or a call or an email, it was all in private. And so there was really no financial incentive for companies to be good at it. And there was really no financial disincentive for them to be bad at it. Because if you made a customer unhappy, who are they going to tell? The 5 people they know? The 5 people they see at church? Like, well, there's no real revenue impact on that. But now that a lot of this happens in public and more every day, there actually is a potential revenue impact to be better at customer service, and a potential revenue impact the other way to be worse at customer service. And so I think we should absolutely get into the habit of addressing all customers, but the revenue potential and sort of the balancing act is probably most acute with the unhappy customers, because they're the ones that actually are taking the time to let you know. The most dangerous customer is not the complainer. The most dangerous customer is the guy who's unhappy, who just disappears, right? Who never says anything. That guy's the one that kills businesses. Right.
So I deal with influencers quite a bit. And by the way, everything you're saying are things that I had assumptions and was kind of thinking about back when we wrote Twitter Revolution about how two-way communication was what was going to be the change. And come to think of it, one of the first times I spoke about Twitter Revolution, I just wanted to make it as simple as possible. And I just said, all these strategic steps about whether to do social and be online, digital marketing, it's just the same as it's always been. It's common sense. And I came up with the 2-word formula for marketing, which is listen and love. And you do that, treat everybody like they're somebody you want to see life turn out good for them. It's going to be okay.
It is common sense, but yet it never actually happens, right? I mean, that's the part that's so puzzling. People have said, like, there's a lot of things in this book that are common sense. I'm like, exactly.
Right.
Yet it's not common. I mean, it's not actually happening. There's an amazing stat from Bain that says that 80% of businesses say that they deliver exceptional customer service. 8% of their customers agree. Right. So we have a fundamental difference in how good we think we are at this versus how good we actually are at this. And so, and it's not so much about knowing how. There's definitely some things and some tips in the book about how to handle situations and whatever. And that's important, but it's not so much a process, Warren, as what this really is resources. It's emphasis. Like, let me give you a stat to sort of frame this up. So each year globally, okay, we spend about $500 billion a year on marketing and about $9 billion a year on customer service. Now that doesn't really make a lot of sense when you sort of really look at that in context. I mean, it's so much sexier and more interesting and all that to sort of let's do marketing to get more customers. That customer service is essentially a necessary evil in most companies, right? They're not putting tons of resources in it. They're not putting their best people on it. It's like, yeah, we got to do that, and it's time to change that, right? It's time to say, look, this is the new marketing. You can use great customer service to differentiate, but you have to actually want to do it, and you got to put time and money into it.
Well, those numbers, I think you're underestimating how much is spent on marketing, because I've seen stats like that say some of the mass media is taking 500 billion, so they're pushing out a message. And so often I see something. Recently, I was planning a trip, and I had points with one chain, and it happened that they had 3 or 4 hotels right by the airport. And one of them was where the event was going to be held. I go, well, this is easy. Let me check them all. And every one of them had just switched to the same interface, and wildly different experiences when you started looking at the reviews. They were doing internal reviews, but none of them were positive. The best was somebody cut and paste the same answer to everybody. Thank you for contacting us. Sorry if you had any problem. We'll try to do better. The same exact words. And when you read the second one, you don't believe it anymore. But
it's such a shame. And that's so easy to fix. Right. But I see it all the time. And the reason that happens is that you've got somebody who's well-intentioned, who says, look, I believe the principles in the Hug Your Haters book. We're going to answer every complaint in every channel every time. Great. But then they say, but we don't have enough resources to do it individually. So what we're going to do is get these 5 pre-approved by legal responses.
Right.
And then we're just going to copy and paste and say, well, this problem appears to fit answer 3, and we're going to copy answer 3 and paste answer 3. And they feel like, oh, we're doing our job. But as you said, it's so obvious to everybody. You're like, this is a total jerk off, right? It's actually doing you a disservice, because look, copy and paste does not have empathy.
Yeah.
And empathy is everything in customer service, right? If you don't genuinely care about the customer, that is instantaneously obvious. And let me tell you a great little thing that Delta does that I learned in the book. Steve Curtin, who's a terrific customer service author, friend of mine, speaker, wrote about this in his book, At Your Service. And I learned it and cited it in my book. And so Delta has this thing where they say there's a big difference between sort of just answering somebody and being present, right? And really listening and empathizing and kind of understanding what's going on, right? They want to unlock the humanity of their people. So when they train their folks, whether it's flight attendants or gate agent or on the phone, the way they train them is after, a certain interval, they stop you in training and say, tell me everything about the last 3 people you handled. Tell me what they look like, describe their situation, tell me anything about their personality. You have to be able to actually after the fact, describe the last three people. And if you can't do that, you're just going through the motions. You're not actually being present. And I really, really like that concept and that difference between just copying and pasting and just kind of like, let me check, like you talked about on Twitter, check the heart, check the heart, check the heart, check the heart, and actually reading and saying, why did this person favorite this? What's their story? Could we do more? There's a real difference there.
Right.
And it matters. It really matters.
I look at it as if I was doing that, and I'm getting into the habit of just clicking on favorite or like on Facebook or whatever we're calling them this week. And, just acknowledging people, trying to do the right thing. And it becomes a habit of doing that. And then I go through and let's say I got a comment from Jay and I didn't say anything. And I'm like, oh no, Jay Baer left me a comment and I forgot about it. Because you're a friend. I want to react a little bit differently than how I react to just everybody. And I think that's what the technology has allowed us to do. But we're coming out of a century where being able to push out a message better was the way to grow. I mean, incredible growth by people figuring out how to hook up all the TV and or radio stations to distribute, syndicate things nationwide, mass transportation, mass communications, and mass production. So we could, what it used to be that, you can have any color you want as long as it's black kind of stories. We don't have that anymore. Now, if you want to wear a purple shirt, you can, and proudly. You can make it manly in your case. But
I'm doing the best I can.
So
I'm doing the best I can. I want to address Don's question, which is a really good one. Which is for people who are listening to this on the podcast afterwards. We're recording this on Blab, so some live comments coming through. So I want to make sure that you're not totally confused by that. So Don Young asks, Jay, talk about how many times we should engage a hater to try to repair. One of my favorite parts of the book, and one that I get a lot of feedback on, is my rule of reply only twice. So Jay Baer's rule of reply only twice goes like this. You should never, ever, 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 ever respond to a customer more than twice in public, because it's either a waste of time or it's counterproductive, or both. So if somebody says, hey, we love you, you should answer back, we love you too. And they come back a second time, no, we really love you. And you answer back, no, we really love you too. And if they're like a crazy super fan and they come back a third time, just don't bother, right? You've already high-fived it twice. You don't need to spend any more time, hugging it out a third time. This is, of course, more likely in a negative scenario. Somebody says, I really, you're the worst. And you should answer back, oh, I'm sorry, we disappointed you. How can I help you? They come back a second time. You can't help me. You're just the worst. You should say, oh, there must be something really wrong. Could we maybe talk about this via phone or email? We have a more comprehensive and nuanced conversation about it. They come back a third time. I don't have a conversation with you. You're the worst. At that point, you just walk away.
Right.
Because you have given that person not just one, but two chances. You've given them an alternate contact mechanism. They clearly do not want to be helped. So at that point, you do not feel the need to go back a third, fourth, fifth, sixth time. You're not going to be able to turn that hater into a lover. It's not what they're looking for, right? And most importantly, online, you have shown all the spectators, which could be 10 people, could be hundreds, could be thousands, could be tens of thousands or more eventually. You've shown all those people who watched that interaction what you're made of. You're shown that you listen. You've shown that you care. You've shown that you'll respond. You've shown that you can keep your cool. You've demonstrated what your values are. And so you're not just talking to that person. You're talking to everybody. And you do not feel the need. You don't have to feel the need to wrestle that person to the ground and go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's totally counterproductive. And it's really easy to get caught into the sort of vortex of negativity where you sort of get pulled into a flame war, and just don't do that. Answer twice. Move on.
Mm-hmm. Great. That's great advice. I've taken some further. I have had conversations, but once they let you know that they're not going to tell you anything about the situation, I know.
What can you do with that?
Yeah,
what are you going to do?
Then again, I'm a little bit different. I tend to complain a lot when I find something wrong with software or whatever. I remember as a kid, the first time that we were able to call an 800 number, or it actually was still a local number. It was even before Watts line. And we called and confirmed a reservation. Some relative was visiting, and they were able to call the airport or the airline and find out that the flight was on time, and how much time that actually saved us, that they'd offer this service. that we didn't have to drive him out to the airport and wait. I'm like 10 at the time, and but that stuck with me, that it most of the time the technology is offering us a chance for convenience, and then when something doesn't go right, as a business owner, I always wanted to tell people. I did a lot of customer support, and we'd go out of our way to try to solve problems, because we figured everybody walking in the door had one of two things going on. Either it was working just fine until all of a sudden, or doing the same dang thing it always does. Either way, they were there with a problem. They weren't there to tell us we love the product. And so, we knew that if we didn't get specific, it'd be a waste of time. We had as specific as problem. We'd have, the same machine over and over, different machines, but same model. We're doing warranty service again and again and again coming in. And we'd get upset, like, oh crap, we got, another 14 of these today. Company's really screwed up.
Right.
And then I realized I'm making money on every one of these. It was one of those things with free parts and a fixed amount of money. So it was all about how fast we could take care of them. We didn't take care of them by ignoring them. We took care of them by putting all the effort into customer service. And it turned around. Everybody was telling their friends. Literally, I had somebody ship me one across the country. And then when they got it back so fast, they shipped me 10 more. They said, we've been trying to get these things fixed. Nobody can fix them. You took care of it. And so we're on a CompuServe forum, and semi-private, like a group today. And people were talking about, it was right after Christmas, they were talking about, they all got the product for Christmas. They were all talking about finding the CEO and burning a cross on his lawn. And I found the CEO's home address. What are we going to do? And I would just say, like, listen, I can't help you with any of that, but if you have a specific problem, I'd be happy to help. Well, yeah, we need drivers for the printer. Did you try downloading them? Here's a link. And all of a sudden, they wanted to make me king of the brand. And all I am is one little tiny warranty service guy answering a few questions. And suddenly, my business became all about how we can make it as pleasant as possible, rather than trying to came up with that joke line. They'd walk in and I'd say, well, I'll bet it's one of these two things. And usually that got a laugh there. Now telling it, not so much. Let's go with the other question. Let's see, what do we got here?
It's funny you talked about answering the same question over and over. I talk about that in the book a little bit, that Amazon has this amazing principle. It's impossible to do this in practice, but this is sort of their culture, which is that we should never have to answer the same question twice. That if we have to answer the same question twice, that we have somehow failed. Like, our information isn't good enough. It's not obvious enough. Our content marketing isn't good enough. And I really love that concept. Again, it's impossible to do that in practice because people don't read and they ask questions that are crazy and all that. But as a sort of guiding principle, I think it's really, really interesting. And your story about printer drivers is so funny because there's a whole case study in the book about HP. And the site Spiceworks. Spiceworks is an enormous, huge platform for IT professionals. It has discussion boards and forums and ratings and reviews. And I have a whole case study in there about a lady who works for HP, who's one of the dedicated reps for HP in Spiceworks, and how she is the face of the brand in Spiceworks. She is the emissary to that community. She's like, an ambassador to Spiceworks, and she just hangs out there, answers questions and troubleshoots in that very large forum. And it really humanizes this very, very big company. And the reason it makes me laugh is that one of the questions that she answers, and the one I actually document very specifically in the book, is about printer drivers. So everything old is new again. From CompuServe to Spiceworks, it's the same shit. 20 years later, we're still... But you know what? It's so true. I mean, this is why this book is so important, I think. And I'm not just saying that because I wrote it. It's that, we're trying to use a 1995 playbook to solve 2016 customer service problems. If you still call it a call center, that tells you all you need to know about the state of customer service in your organization.
Well, yeah, you're talking printer drivers. I instantly thought of, wait a minute, I did another thing. We started charging $9 to make a disc and mail it to them. I think $9.95 or whatever. And of course, the drivers are free, but we'd go online, download them. This is like in the early aughts, where still a lot of people just hadn't bothered, probably even the late 90s. They didn't have much in the way of an internet connection or know where to find the drivers. And so they would ask us. We said, yeah, sure, we'll be happy to do that. We can tell you where to get it and send you an email. What's an email? It's very easy to find the driver. But if you'd like, I'd be happy to get them for you. And when XP was brand new. And they said, well, my old printer won't work with my new driver. So instead of us coming out for $100 service call, I can get you some drivers. And we found out we could do it all over the country. We thousands of those discs. My profit margin on it was really good. It was still $9.95. If somebody complained about whether or not it was going to cost them money, we'd tell them how to get it free. And everything we solved was that way. And I feel good that I was doing these things. And then the other thing that comes up, though, is like, wow, maybe there is something to this, going out and looking how we can be positive instead of solving negative problems. Everything can be a chance for them to love it. I used to hide. The first thing I would teach people, me, Mr. on Twitter talking all the time, 15 years ago, I would actually not want to be in the front office because I'm talkative. Somebody come in, I'd get into conversation, I'd make my stupid joke. They'd tell me all about their printer and their life. And, we probably had it fixed before we were done talking, and I didn't get anything done during the day. So the first thing I teach people was what to do if people came in asking for Warren. And there was like 4 questions to ask. And if they weren't one of those 4, then go ahead and take care of the person yourself. And usually one would get them to what they wanted. And back then I wasn't, promoting myself as the brand. I just was known in the community. But today, that's what I do. I'd be hanging out in the front office, meeting people. And when the phone rings and somebody says, "How do I get to your location?" You go, that's a buying trigger. That's somebody that wants to spend money. They don't call and ask for the store hours because they hate you. And so it's I think the amplification you're talking about, that 25%, what did you call, higher approval rating, or is that translating into sales, that 25% number?
Advocacy increase.
The advocacy increase. Okay, that's a good term for it. The advocacy increase, if I can do that with somebody that is an influencer, already loves my brand and doing something, I can do that too. And sometimes that's just acknowledging them. So,
no question. There's some amazing things you can do by taking people who already like you and turn them into love you, right? I mean, we've had this conversation. I believe the whole point of social media is not customer acquisition. I think social media is a shit tool for customer acquisition for the most part, other than paid. Organic social is not good for customer acquisition. Organic social is good for taking people who like you and making them love you, turning customers into volunteer marketers, creating advocates out of customers.
Right.
And that's what social media is good for.
Right.
We don't think of it that way. I mean, I think social media psychologically is more similar to the greatest email newsletter ever invented than it is, direct response or TV or radio or something like that. It's just most people don't think of it that way. They're like, make me customers from scratch, and I'm like, no, you already have customers.
It's a good
just
way
take them from here.
Yeah.
Just make them love you instead of like you. I mean, that's the role of social. Ideally, but we don't see it.
And it's such a good way to hug another couple hundred people every day. Each person can. And if you don't have the resources to do it. Last week I taught somebody how to tag. We were visiting a client, and they had videos they needed to upload so the social media team could have access to them. And so the social media people said, "Well, can you tag them so we know what's in the video?" Well, the guy had worked on him 2 days before, but he couldn't remember what were in the 10 5-minute videos. So I watched one with him, and I said, "You can skip ahead, scrub through the thing, get a gist for what it is, and then put in some tag." Fine. We get him one set of tags done. And he goes, "The next one is, so I can just cut and paste this, can I?" I go, "Oh, yeah, well, I'm not a writer. I'm a guy who produces the videos, and this isn't my job." And I'm thinking like, oh, wow, that's got to be what's happening when somebody's first told to read the Twitter stream and respond. Is there a way I can cut and paste? Can I shortcut this? Boy, I go looking at the idea of keyboard macros all the time. And what I've tried that works is is voice. I love every once in a while, just in the mood and Siri's working right, I'm in a quiet place and I can sit there and answer 10 tweets and just think like, wow, if you'd have told me 10 years ago I'd be able to use my voice to tweet, I would have laughed.
Right? I know. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Or if you told you 10 years ago, you could use something like Blab for customer service, which you absolutely can.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's great for, especially in a software company, for example, like, okay, we've had this many new customers in the last 3 weeks. Let's all do onboarding together in a venue like this. Terrific, terrific kind of stuff. Ross asked a great question. Speaking of live streaming, Ross Brand, hey man, do you include? I mentioned about using social for customer retention more so than acquisition. He asks, do you include podcasts and live streaming in the same category as social, or can they work for customer acquisition? I think both. I think both podcasts and live streaming can be great for customer acquisition because it can inform customers, in the consideration process, a very utility style of marketing. We do a lot of podcast production now at Convince and Convert for corporate clients. Big believers in that kind of technology, especially for B2B.
Mm-hmm. Well, and everything's social. All transactions are all human interactions. So I used to read books and think like, boy, that author's really smart. I can't wait until Jay's next book comes out. And now I think about it. If I didn't know you, I think I met you when your first book was coming out.
That's right. Yeah.
And we could
the Now Revolution years ago.
Yeah, we talk about it right now. And if we had time, I could go into an hour of examples in the last 10 years where after I became, I was a book guy, but it was before I became writing books about social media and known at places. I would just expect I could talk to anybody. I'd go to their blog and leave a comment, watch a TED Talk, love the book, go and buy the book, write a review of the book. That's how I met Solly Hogshead. I read her book. I saw her talk. I read her book. It was so good. I had to write a review, posted it on my blog, and boy, did I get hugged. She loved that I was doing that, and now I've got a big fan. And I'm thinking like, wow, I feel like I'm lucky to know her, and she's become a fan. And that's happened to me over and over again, where the ability to just give some love. So while hug your haters is the right way for a company to get started on this, you got to start hugging everybody. So hugs. However, I do a virtual hug. I haven't practiced this at all.
Eric's got a good as well.
Imagine we're reaching out. I'm reaching out and hugging.
Eric asked a great question. He says, do you think that video is critical now for podcasts? And I'd love to get your take on this, Warren. I don't think it's critical. If you want to do a video show, awesome. I think it adds something to the experience in some cases, just being able to see one another and pull guests in and things like that. But I think from a practical standpoint, I think video can be really good for this reason.
Yeah, I don't think I think what I did was
if you have video, you have audio, right?
Somewhere about 2012, I finally turned on my Skype camera. I'd owned several cameras, done things like webinars and interviews, but not on purpose. And then always with a lot of planning. Tried my best to stay off of it and say I've got a face for radio. And then I turned it on and I found out video is better communication. So I think today using Snapchat to actually talk to people like that would be fantastic. I like Snapchat as the perfect example of people getting it wrong. They're thinking that what they need to do is to just, go out and do a broadcast, make it a show. And the same for Blab, Periscope, or whatever. You don't have to make this a big show. You can just say, hey, I'm going to talk to people and give them an answer. So currently we don't have Jay. He's coming back here for a moment, and let's go ahead and wrap this up for the podcast and say thanks, Jay, for being here, and tell us where we can go if we want to know more about Jay and hug your haters.
Thanks very much, Warren. Fantastic to be here. I sort of disappeared there on the Blab platform. I didn't even press any buttons. They just disappeared me without my permission or my consent. But sometimes that happens. It is, after all, in beta.
Right.
Thank you. Fantastic to speak with you as always. I appreciate the opportunity to chat. The book, Hug Your Haters, How to Embrace Complaints and Keep Your Customers, includes a poster in every book, all kinds of research. If you have customers, you'll get something out of it. You can get the book all the places and ways that books can be gotten, Audible, Kindle, whatever. Hugyourhaters.com is the official site. If you buy books, send me a receipt. I'll send you a bunch of cool bonus stuff. And then obviously you can find all my other stuff, blogs, podcasts, email, all that at convinceandconvert.com.
Fantastic. So yeah, well, until next time, which I'm sure this won't be the last.
I hope not.
Maybe I'll go write a book and you can talk to me. But
Do it.
some way,
What are you waiting for? Get on it.
yeah, or we'll just hang out. That's always a lot of fun too. I learn something every time I talk to you, and fantastic. And I love the philosophy of hugging everybody, haters, loving.
Hug them.
Yeah, it's just the way to be. And when we grasp that and stop trying to apply the 20th century model to everything, I think we're all going to be doing a lot better. So, seeing no more questions, let's go ahead and wrap this up and see you all next time.
Thanks,
Bye.
pal. Thanks, everybody. Take care.